Hello, how's everybody doing? I know I haven't did ex-Jehovah Witness tape in a long time, but here it is, okay? And I do the music, I always do the music because it brings in view. I have to, because like I'm really, really busy and I have the thing, not the easiest, but I had to put material on, or else everything, they make it really difficult to go to continually get views. I mean, like, if you don't do anything at all, you have to start, like, it's almost like starting back over again, you know, which is no problem. I mean, I did it like several times. Um, Starting over with like just from the bottom. As far as their studio is concerned, all your numbers go down. It's just a little bit harder work, and then you have to bring out something new. So it's best to do something, and that's what I do. I'm glad I can do a lot of things. I mean, I'm glad I got a lot of, I have a lot of different sections in my YouTube, thanks to God. And I just wanted to talk about, well, I wanted to get back to the ex-Jehovah Witness tapes. I'm actually, the reason why I took so long, actually, because I actually have, working a lot, which I have to work a lot. And actually doing the YouTubes are working also. So that's another reason why. But today I wanted to talk about, I had a good subject to talk about. And also I had to recover because, I mean, I know I'm going back and changing back and forth, but it was really, really difficult doing those one after another. I mean, I'm almost finished with that. If everybody follows, they know that I did a lot of YouTubes on this database, and I was doing it every day, and it was really a lot, and you had to process all that. Anyway, I processed a lot of it, and I came up with these things that I wanted to talk about. You also have to have something very good to talk about, and from learning from the database, and I also learned from things that happen in society. Like, I don't know which side you're on. I mean, you don't have to be on any side, but I listened to like techniques about, as far as the ex-Jehovah Witness and as far as the governing body and what they do, they use techniques, So as far as, anything to like motivate somebody or something negative, I can't say, it can't be a motivation if it's negative. I mean, to get someone to do something negative. So I learned a lot from the royal family. I mean, because I was following that Meghan Merkel, or whatever her name is, and her husband Prince Henry, I think. Okay, yeah, Prince Harry. Prince Harry, I think. And the one who married and they moved back into the United States. And I saw how they treated them, okay? And, like, they were against a lot of things, what they stood for anyway. Anyway, they went against them. But I'm not talking about on being on any one side. I pretty much pull apart how they treated them. And how they ended up being almost like, how can I say, paranoid, okay? I'm sorry. So they ended up being like paranoid. That's the thing. It has nothing to do with the royal family or anything. Just the things that they do. And I told you it's similar to like prejudiced, you know what I mean? Because they actually teach prejudice about the ex-Jehovah Witnesses. And I try and understand that, especially because of my position also. I always see how people are being prejudiced and how it happens and how it works. And it made them, like Prince Harry and his wife, it made them almost like paranoid, like the bad person, okay? And then I thought to myself, I go, what are some of the things that happened to me? I'm going to get to the Jehovah Witness part. But I remember, because I'm in so many bad different categories, I mean, I'm old, I'm black, what's another one? Poor. I mean, all those categories I fit into. So I could pretty much understand a lot of things as far as being set aside or treated differently. Oh, I'm not going to say the other one. I can't. I don't know why. I mean, you know the other category that I'm in. I just don't want to go there yet because I'm not surrounded by the people that anyway, I'm not going to go there. Okay. So, you know the other categories I fit into. And so anyway, it's like I remember something that happened to me. And it would have to do with prejudice because I was working in this one place, and now I know that the person was narcissistic. I never knew that until the thing happened with what's her name? They call it Turd or something. Amber Heard. Okay. So Amber Heard, and one thing she helped me with is the fact that I didn't know that there were. I mean, I knew that there were. I kept hearing narcissists, but now it's defined. And I went through my relationship, just friendships and everything that happened to me, and I noticed. Now I understand why some people the way they were. Well, anyway, this person I work with, he had to be something like that, maybe worse. And I remember he did something because I was like, I'm not gonna say because I don't want to, for anybody who knows about the jobs, I don't want them to find out who it was because I'm not saying this against anybody. So anyway, I was with the person, and they did something that was so bad. I mean, it happened over a period of time, but I had to say something. And when I tried to say something, I went to the manager and I tried to say something. I couldn't say anything. I mean, I couldn't talk. I mean, like, you know, like you have those dreams sometimes when you can't talk or you can't move or something like that. It was like that. And I went up to try to explain. And every time I tried to explain, I was like, I was lying or I was like stupid. You know what I mean? Like I was like autistic or something. I'm not saying anything bad about autistic, but that's how it was. I felt that way. I felt like it was just amazing. I'm saying amazing in the fact that somebody could not hurt you mentally, which I realized from that experience. And what I'm going through now, what I'm talking to the subject about, is that everybody sees everything physical and they can't put any laws against anything that there's no laws about. You know, like torturing somebody in their mind the way that they torture. Now I'm getting into the government body or whoever controls this. But I could not speak, okay? I could not speak. I was like, and when I did speak, I sounded like I was lying or I was making up something. It was terrible. It was like something, I just can't explain how this feeling was. So now I'm getting into what I want to talk about. It's the fact that, believe it or not, what I came up with, I didn't have something really out there. What I came up with is that the Jehovah Witnesses and the ex-Jehovah Witnesses are being tortured. It's an actual mental torture, okay? Although the Jehovah Witnesses don't really realize that they're being tortured, But the ex-Jehovah Witnesses do realize that they're being tortured. And it is a torture. Because I put this together because I studied. I mean, I can research something and I can find out the answers to things. And like I said, I showed you that thing about with the queen. And I said to myself, why would, I mean, the princess or whatever, Prince Harry's wife. And I would say, why are they acting like this? And then I said to myself, yes, it will happen. I mean, out of all, I mean, everybody who knows my tapes, they know, I can't even say some of the categories I fit into. One of the ones that I fit into, I don't know why I can't say it, because I just had so many things that happen. So I studied those things, and I go to myself, I said to myself, I had to put it all together. And then I saw the fact that someone can actually torture you in your mind and you don't even realize it. And I'm not talking about noticeably like emotional torture or something like that. It's a different realm, okay, to where it's so subtle and it happens, okay? But as a Jehovah Witness, you are being tortured. So they're being tortured, actually. And what are some of the things that I see when I was Jehovah Witness that I was being tortured? Like, for instance, the thing with the birthdays. Okay, when you're young. Now I don't see it bother me, but I can see what type of torture that is. Not being able to be with your friends or not. But you get used to it. You get like callous. You know, that's one of the things that this type of torture does. It makes you callous to a lot of things. Like, for instance, we're callous to, it really tortures up, and we're callous. The ex-Jehovah Witnesses are really callous because they've been tortured and they continually be tortured, like not being able, like, for instance, I have a brother. I mean, you already know that I have brothers and family that I don't have talked to. My mother, she passed away and she was sick for 3 years and all this, and every day for over 30 years, I didn't get a chance to talk to her. That means every day is a type of torture, like a water dripping on your head. And we maintain and able to work this life out that we have here, but yet we're being tortured. It's a certain kind of torture. I don't know what type it is yet, but I can go over it. But this is the conclusion I drew from the things that I did recently in the database and seeing how things are. And I told you, it's like the reason why I use prejudice, because a lot of people would not be prejudiced, okay, if they weren't taught to be prejudiced. A lot of people wouldn't. I remember one time I was in a southern state. I'm not going to say what state it is. And I was friends with these people. And they were not my color. They were white and I was black. And they treated me like, you know, they didn't even, like I wasn't, you know, a different color or anything. I mean, you know, like, for instance, one time we were at their house and there was 2 girls and 1 guy. And I slept in her bed because we were all really tired. And we just laid down and just, you know, relaxed, you know, because we were getting ready to do something at night. And then we went to the park by the lake at night. And we had Budweiser and stuff like that. And we were talking everything. And then one time they were driving and somebody black was in back of them. And they were really prejudiced. I mean, they really didn't like blacks. I mean, they didn't even see or notice that I was black. I'm serious. That's why I'm trying to say it was taught. And they just were like, hate. And I said, if that black person actually sees that they have a black person in their car, I mean, you know what I mean? Oh, I hate those people. And they pull out this thing and all this other stuff. And it was like, but I said it to say this, it's just that this is something that was taught, okay? And they don't even realize, you don't even realize, you can't reason with yourself. You don't even know what's going on. But in that way, we didn't realize that we were being tortured, and we were being taught to actually be prejudiced to a lot of people also. Because, like, for instance, to say those things against people, and I told you about what I feel the world is now, to other people, it's just like a prejudice. I mean, when you say, oh, only we're going to survive and don't talk to these people because they're in the world and all this other, that's a prejudice too. So I know that they're learning this thing that has to do with, I mean, that is structured the same way as anything else that they would do. Like I said, prejudice, the Jehovah Witness structure. It's not so much, it's, yes, it is brainwash. Yes, it's brainwash. But it is also a torture, and it's also a training, you know, that same type of training. And you can't really pinpoint it because these people have been doing it for a long time. And now, let's talk about, what I want to do now is I want to talk about how we're tortured, how they're tortured, get into that. And there's something I want to talk to you about my family, about my brother who passed away, actually. So now, I told you one thing about the way we were tortured. It's like, you know, like not being able to go to parties, not being able to do things in school, not being able to associate with like friends in school, and I'm talking about we're not supposed to. The way they have the setup, like the I mean, I don't know what it is now, but the way they had the meetings to where you can't do anything else. I mean, you can't really plan anything because you have I'm talking about the regular, like, times that we had in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. So it was like, you know, Tuesday night, it was like Friday night for 2 hours, Tuesday for 1 hour, go on service on Saturday, Sunday 2 hours, and another hour for service. So service was like 8 hours, you know, just on average, 8 to 10 hours a month for service. And then you have a week, 2, 4, 5 hours a week for the meetings. Then you have to study or do your talks, and that's another hour. Just added another hour to the week, so that's like 6 hours there. And that's like a torture because there were so many things that we could have done that had nothing to do with our religion. I mean, just to learn more about ourselves, and that's another thing. It's a torture because you don't get to learn anything about yourself. I say it's a brainwashing, but I have to go into torture because there's so many parts of yourself that you don't understand because they take the time to do it, because they tell you what to do. And that's why I say that as a Jehovah Witness, they're being tortured. And I'm going to explain to you at the end, because I'm going to tell you about my brother who passed away, what I believe, and it will show you that that he's tortured. But I have to set this story up. So that's the ways that we were tortured when we were Jehovah Witness. Now the ex-Jehovah Witnesses, they lose everything. That's the torture. I mean, you lose. Well, I'm an ex-Jehovah Witness, and I know you ex-Jehovah Witnesses know how much you were tortured and constantly are tortured. There was one brother, I can say brother because he had left, and I was so worried about him. I don't know, some people that you hold on to on these YouTubes, and the way he was talking, I just wanted to see how he was doing. And I still have him, I still see him every so often. I mean, what I'm saying, I go back and I look at his YouTube, and it's just amazing how I could see, like, he was tortured. And I had one friend, she told me, I know she knows what I'm talking about. She I went to see her video on her YouTube. I didn't have, my time is dwindling in my life, so I don't have a chance to really go see it as much as I do. But I noticed the torture. I couldn't explain it. I just had to say torture. It was like inner voice from the things that happened to her and things that are continually happening to her. And the reason why we don't get over it, because we're constantly doing this. I mean, we're constantly like not being able to, it's just, we're here, we're still suffering the consequences, I guess I can say. I was even thinking about my nephew. I only have like 2 nephews, okay? One from my half-brother, and I know he doesn't like me to call him a half-brother, because we grew up, actually, well now he knows because he got in touch with his half-family, so I can say half-brother. But he's like he's definitely a real brother. I mean a whole brother, because we never grew up saying half. And then I got one from my sister, a nephew from my sister. And that's a whole, I'm sorry for saying that, because he might look at this video. I'm sorry for saying it. But anyway, he was a Jehovah Witness. And I remember when he was a baby, and God just made it to where I have that memory, to where my job was right, my mother was there, and my job, I used to work at night, but I was able to see him because my sister would drop him off when he was a little kid, maybe like even a month. I mean, not a month, maybe like 2 months or 3 months. And it was a special time because it has beautiful memories. And I used to be at home in the mornings, and I get to see him. It was just so great. And I loved him. I never seen a child that would just smile all the time. And I remember when my mother left one time, and she goes, okay, watch little Carl. And I put blankets. I was so afraid. I mean, in her room, I put like blankets and pillows like all around, because he was like moving so fast. So my mother called, no cell phones, this is just landlines. And I said, he's just moving all around, you know. I didn't know what was going to happen to him. This guy never cried. I never heard him cry while I was at that time. And sometimes I would run into the room. My mother would be downstairs, and I would run into the room because he'd be on her bed. And I go look at him, and this child would smile all the time. I mean, like ever since he was like three months. So anyway, my mother called me. I told you I put all the blankets around. And my mother called me, and she goes, why don't you give him some, give him his bottle. I go, no, I'm not going to feed this child, because I was afraid to feed him, because my mother could just, like, when they started coughing and everything, she knew exactly what to do. All this stuff, and I'm like, I couldn't do that. And I said, no, I am not going to feed him. And then whatever. I just was like afraid. So anyway, she says, okay, don't worry, I'll be there in a second. So it was that, and things like that. And I always remember him. And that's like a torture, it was a torture, because I remember when I was at Jehovah, when I went back to the congregation just to visit, and my sister told him, I put this in one of my YouTubes, but this is in a different context, and he walked right past me. I could not believe it. I mean, I love that guy, my nephew, okay? And I swear, I mean, it was like a torture, because I couldn't talk to him, I couldn't talk to my sister, and it was just like something, it was a torture. So that's a way that we are constantly being tortured. That's just one itsy bitsy way. Not just that, but there's times you need your family. Like, for instance, you got to putting people on applications and you don't realize how much just your family and your friends that you had at your witness, how your life is affected and tortured by them and us. But the thing about it is now I can see that they're being tortured and we're being tortured all day. And I'm going to solidify the fact that they're being tortured. Okay. So I finished the one about the Jehovah Witness, how they're being tortured. And we already know about how we're being tortured. The only difference with this YouTube is actually explaining to you that it's a torture. I don't know if we came up with that. But yes, it's a mind, it's, what do you call it? It's, like we say, your mind, brainwashing, yes, okay? But it's also, the reason, brainwashing is something that's like, they do, okay? But the suffering that you do, and is a torture, but I can't explain what type of torture it is. Because if you could explain what kind of torture it is, then it would be wrong. But because society doesn't understand this type of torture, you can't really say it's wrong. I don't know. But anyway, I don't know if it's an emotional torture. Maybe it's a mixture of a lot of things, but I'll think about that and I'll be able to explain to you what type of torture that they're going through and that we're going through as Jehovah Witnesses. Now I'm going to explain to you why I came up with the fact that it was a torture. I strongly believe, and everybody knows who listens to my tapes, is that there's a big part of our life that we don't talk about. A matter of fact, there was these 5 things, I saw this on YouTube on 5 things never to tell people or something like that, which is kind of hard to because of the way the technology is now in YouTube. YouTube, you have to pretty much be honest, and you have to, not just honest, you have to tell things that people don't want to talk about, okay? But I noticed one thing, I know I didn't say one, I know everybody who knows that I explained that I was black, I said I was old, I said I was poor, and there was another one, but I can't say it. I mean, because I don't, it's just, I'll explain to you later on, it's just the way, the position I'm in right now, I can't say it. So let me go back to what I was talking to. So anyway, we described that, and then I was telling you about the torture, and now I was explaining to you about, okay, I was explaining to you about YouTube. Okay, these 5 things that this YouTube I was talking about, it was like this Zen or whatever. And he was saying 5 things don't talk about to people. And one of them was your spiritual things that happen to you that nobody else would understand, okay? Like, for instance, the way things that happen, because life is like a fantasy also. And the spiritual things that happen to us that we don't want to talk about to anybody, and we don't. But I've talked about them in these YouTubes because it was the reason why I can't get around it, because it's the truth. You know what I mean? And then I was going to tell you about the thing that I can't talk about right now. I can't talk about it because I'm going through this thing. Don't worry about it, okay? It's just I'm surrounded by people who don't. I know I'm not going to go there. Okay, so let me just finish this thing, okay? So the 5 things that they were talking about, because I like to tell everything, and it's no big deal. It's just that I just want to get through this YouTube, and I'll explain to you about that later on, okay? Because I have people who know me so well that they know what I'm talking about, and they want me to just. But anyway, I want to finish this YouTube on this subject. It's already 29 minutes, okay? So he had these 5 things, and one of the things was do not talk to people about the spiritual things that happen to you, or the spiritual things that you understand. But I said to myself, it said, like I said, the technology and especially YouTube, you pretty much have to be honest about what happens to you. You know what I mean? And I think it also helps other people to do it. And if people did it more, people will understand that they're not the only like strange person. Mine, now I'm getting into why I came up with this torture thing. And okay, now, I believe if you have your family, and I'm Christian, and I believe in heaven, definitely. So, Catholic. So, I, if you have your family and you love your family, I pretty much believe that you can know if they're all right if they pass away. Like I said, um, my mother when she passed away, it was a big deal, and plus the torture that was given me, um, I had to find out. I almost went crazy. I mean, it was like being crazy because if my sister didn't call me, I was writing an ad in the newspaper explaining about my mother being dead or something like that. I had the Buffalo Evening News. It was like I was calling those papers, and then thank God I was going to be Buffalo Evening News or wherever, or where we grew up, not just Buffalo. And she called. Thank God she called, and she explained everything to me. So then I knew I had to do an intention, because I was Catholic. I was really going every week. And I got an intention, and if people follow these videos, they already know the story, which was very important to me. Why was it important to me? Because it is important to me, because I have a spiritual aspect like everybody else. People usually keep theirs secret. But I don't see any reason to keep it secret because I believe so deeply in what I believe as far as heaven is concerned. And I found out about what happened to my mother. I needed to know. And if you need to know something about your family or your loved one, it has to be like a blood connection or something like that. You could pretty much find out if you are sincere and if you listen, okay? Because some things, a lot of people ask for things in their prayers, but they don't know. Sometimes it takes a month to get the answer. I mean, sometimes you have to piece things together. And I know a lot of people know it, but they don't explain this thing about life that I'm explaining. So I found out about what happened to my mother. What I believe happened to my mother. But no matter what, you always have to say what you believe, because it is another world. It is another. Heaven is a different place. It can't mix, or else there'll be no world as we know it. Well, later on you'll see what's going to happen. But what I'm saying is this world is separate from heaven. But it's real, and God makes it really real. So anyway, I had to find out, and because I believed, I found out what I feel happened to my mother. Definitely heaven, thank God. She went to heaven. But it's in the story in the back, and some other videos. So anyway, my brother passed away, which was a big deal also for me. But I didn't talk to him in so long, and he was so much, and I got talks about him, I got videos about him. So, the one, you'll know which one I'm talking about, okay? And the one I was staying in the house with him, and he was the fellowship for a little while, but I knew because he had cheated on his wife, but I knew he was going back. So that's the one I'm talking about. And anyway, he passed away. And I started thinking about him. I was like, I would think about him, but in the past, like when I worked with him and things like that, And I remember I would always work with my older brothers a lot, different things that they do. Although my brother, who is the ex-Jehovah Witness also, he doesn't remember that I used to work with him. I say, I used to work with you when you did this and when you did. I don't know. You never did that. You never did that. And when I did, why would I lie about it? So anyway, I used to work with this other brother, and he was Jehovah Witness. Of course, he went back to Jehovah Witness. So when I started thinking about him, I would think about his song that he told me that he liked the most. That was one thing. And another thing, I just started thinking about him, And I would know if I mean, if there was something negative that happened to somebody who was in your family, I'm sure you would know, because you would know if that person, something that you just would know just by the way you continually think about somebody. And I'm talking about very close people in your family. If something happens to them, you could pretty much tell. I mean, you could tell if it's negative or positive, you know, because because you're loved, and if you pray, you have to have a relationship with God too. And but I didn't ask anything about. I didn't pray anything about him. I never did, because we had a lot of things that I don't know. It was just such a weird. He just had this very weird type of thing going on in his mind. And just recently, not too many not maybe like a week ago, I told my brother. I told my brother who's an ex-Jehovah Witness. I dreamt about him. I can say name because everybody's old. Daryl, and I pronounced his name wrong. And I used to always think about that. He always told me, "Why you pronounce my name wrong?" And so I had this dream about him. So this is where it's getting into what I believe. Okay, totally. Right now is everything that I believe. When you talk like this, you have to express that it's your opinion, and it's something that it's conclusions that only I drew for myself. And it's something that helped me as far as being an ex-Jehovah Witness. Also, it helped me to understand and come up with this tape about torture. Because, okay, of course, it's like a dream. I'm in a dream. And I'm at this table, almost like a picnic table, I guess. You know, I'm not sure. It was something like a picnic table, but it was a table, like a bench or whatever. And I know this because I could, put my arm on it or something like that. And my brother came. He looked like he was 24. He looked like he was 20. Like everybody, most of people, it's okay. This is all from here on in. It's just my opinions that I drew for myself as far as my belief as a person. Okay. And a Christian and believing in God. And I think I'm weird, but because nobody else does this. So anyway, he came and he sat down. Excuse me. He didn't say anything whatsoever. But I knew it was him. And he was 24. I mean, but he looked better than a 24. Usually people like when my mother passed away and I would see her. I mean, you already know the ones I was talking about. Usually my vision of them is like around 24. But it's not a 24 like earthly 24. It's a 24. It's like 24, but I can't describe it. It's like even when my niece passed away, I saw her, okay? I have to tell you, it strengthens you believing me. But when my niece passed away, I saw her. She was like in a purple dress, like this, dancing and everything, and happy, and it was like she was 24, and that's why I say 24. So anyway, I'm going back to my brother. So he was like 24. You know what I mean? And he just sat there, and then he left. I don't know if they instructed him to leave or whatever, but he got up and he went. He wasn't mean to me or anything. And I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why it was like that. But then someone said, "Is that him?" And I go, "Yes, that's him. That's definitely him." And then I went to another dream, or I woke up, whatever. But I had to wonder. And then I told my brother, my brother who's a Jehovah Witness, I dreamt about Daryl, but he didn't ask me any questions, so I didn't say anything. So anyway, I had to think about, well, what happened to him? It was like he was there, but he didn't talk to me. So he was definitely in heaven. And a lot of people don't realize, but everybody thinks that everything is on earth is that we created these things. I mean, we didn't come up with like post office. We didn't come up with books. We didn't come up with anything, okay? A lot of people think that we came up with all this, but those are things that were bestowed upon us. Bestowed upon us, I think that's the way you pronounce it. And the reason why I say that, you have to understand that, what I'm saying, okay? Because I had dreams about heaven, and every time it was like they had everything there and better than what they had, what we have here. I'm sorry. So anyway, I had to think about, well, what happened to him, you know? And I know God helps me, because if I pray about it, I know He's going to help me understand. Everything fits together like a piece puzzle. And I wanted to know where he was. The only thing I could come up with was the fact that he was like in an asylum. Like, I don't know if it's bad to say asylum. I guess the bad word would be like a crazy house, okay? But I can't say crazy house. But the reason why I said crazy house, or I wanted something like that. I don't know, mental institution or something like that, okay? It was something like that, okay? Don't say it's not there, because if it's here, it's there also. So, but it's in a different kind of setting. It's different. But it was what we would think of as an asylum. But it's not imperfect. There, it would be perfect, okay? And I was saying to myself, why would he be in an asylum? Of course, I pray about it also. Because, okay, first of all, he's a lot of people say hell. Yes, there is hell. But a lot of people think so many people are going to hell. But not as many as you think. I mean, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to make the judgment, because I'm not a judge person. But I'm just saying, a lot of people, there's other places that they can go. Okay? So anyway, evidently, I don't know any other story. I can't explain any other thing. The only thing I can explain, I'm sorry for doing all this. The only thing I can explain is that he was in that place like an asylum, like a mental institution or something, okay? So he would actually, everything that he believed as a Jehovah Witness, he carried on to him. He carried on with him, okay? So, but only there, you don't die. I mean, so he's like almost like suffering, okay? So it's almost like a hell for him when he's not in hell, okay? Because he has all these things that he learned here, and he's bringing them over when he passed away, okay? Because think about it, okay? A lot of people think, like the Jehovah Witnesses think, they think that, you know, you just snap your fingers and everything just works, or God just comes and you can see the light and everything like that. It doesn't work like that. Think about this world, and think about how many different things how hard it is to teach somebody something, okay? Just remember this, is that everybody on earth has to go to school, okay? I'm not saying have to go through school, but when you're born, you have to get updated to what's happening in the world now, okay? Everybody has to do it. I mean, when I say everybody, I mean most people, okay? Because you have to live in this world. So that means that not everybody knows everything, but they have to train you and teach you things like that, okay? So what I'm saying is that everything that you learn here, it's not, you just don't, when you pass away, these are all my opinions, what I draw from my prayers and everything like that. It's just that you have to learn. I mean, it's no like new world and then everything is peaceful and then you don't have to worry about anything. Let me get some oranges. I'm keeping this thing on, but it's just not that easy. It's not like that. I mean, like, so, anyway, what I'm trying to say is he's still the same person as he was. So if I'm a part of heaven or whatever. Another thing I believe is that heaven is a place, but it's big. So there's other places, okay? But what I'm saying is that where he ended up was a place to where he could be, but he's still the same person that he is. So only thing I could think of is that he's tortured. That's where I came up with the torture. Because he's tortured now because he was tortured before. His mind was tortured. So he's going to be tortured there. I don't know how he's going to come out of it. I know it's going to take a long time. But one thing I've learned from this experience is that there's no awakening. I mean, you have to wake up yourself, okay? Because that's how God created us. Is that we come up with our conclusions. If we want to love him, we love him, okay? But we have to learn certain things. As a Jehovah Witness, you don't think you have to learn anything. You think it's automatic. You think the new system comes and and I saw this one cartoon that Jehovah Witnesses make. There was 3 things that they always talk about, and one thing was the new system. And it had a picture of the animals and this park, this big park. It was nothing there. So that means that that's what's in their mind. So when you go over and just say you make it into heaven or whatever other part of heaven that they have, you still have that same feeling, but only it's not true. So how are you going to learn? Okay, it's not going to be anything automatic. You have to still go through everything that you don't know. But now it's more because you have to say, where am I? I thought I was going to be in heaven or whatever. But anyway, so he has to learn everything. So I'm cutting that off. And the only thing I'm trying to say is that he was tortured. And now he's still being tortured because this guy was tortured. I mean, like, when I saw him, I mean, he wasn't in hell. It wasn't hell. I know that for a fact. But he was tortured. And he has to learn the things that he didn't learn here. Okay? So that's as far as I want to go. That's where I came up with the fact that we have to be, the fact that we're tortured. The fact that we're tortured is what I wanted to say. Okay? Okay, my papa. Okay, the only thing, I didn't tell you one thing. Yes, I feel very, I don't know why I want to clear up this thing. Now that video is over with. This video is over. This video over about the torture. But there was one point that I wanted to make, and I have to say it. And one nice thing is that God knows that it's the truth. And he doesn't want me to feel embarrassed to talk about it. So I have to express it. One other thing, I was explaining, and I'm almost sweating. I can't believe how hard it is to say this. But I was saying I was black. I was talking about the categories that I'm in that are negative. I'm black, in a bad category. I'm old, that's a bad category. I'm old, I'm poor, that's another bad category, and I'm gay, and that's another bad category. And just saying that because I'm in this position, that's the thing I didn't want to say, because I'm working with, now I'm at this job to where we don't even talk about it, or I don't meet other people who are gay, so I'm going like in this mind of, in this straight mind now, okay? Which I have no problem because that's, it's just the way life is. And that's why I was getting out of the feeling about saying it, but, it's the truth. But, that's what I have to deal with. So anyway, now I feel better. I almost sweated to death just telling you that. I'm getting into this personality because of the fact that just my surroundings right now. So anyway, I hope everybody stayed and listened to this tape. And I'm glad to be back. So now I explained to you why I came up with, and it is true for me. I hope other people do. But I know everybody else who's out there has spiritual experiences, and that you keep to yourself. Most people don't say them, but I'm in a position to where I have to, because I have to be very honest. And sometimes if I don't say something, you'll say, well, something's wrong with him. You know, that's another thing too about YouTube. People can pretty much spot if something's wrong with you, and they'll take it the wrong way. And like, I can, if I hold back something, then my YouTubes really get messed up. I mean, I know I'm supposed to do YouTubes. I mean, the reason why I know, because it's just like everything just clicks in, is very important. But it's a lot of work, and I really enjoy it, and I'm glad I have the YouTubes that I have. And I hope everybody enjoyed this YouTube. And this one is going to be, of course, the Jehovah Witness, the torture of Jehovah Witnesses and ex-Jehovah Witnesses. So that means we're getting closer to who's torturing us, okay? So just thinking about you all. And thanks for listening, and I'm glad that I finally came back to give another YouTube. Thank you. Bye-bye.